Hey there, welcome back to Creepy Encounters. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the videos. What's the scariest true story you've heard or told? I've told this story before. I'm an eye doctor and I had a patient come to me with an infected eyelid. Two other eye doctors tried to treat and failed. They were dumping all sorts of medicine into it and it wasn't getting any better. At this point, it was swollen and painful for weeks with no improvement despite being on tons of meds. Apparently, neither of them thought to flip the lid upside down, you know that gross trick some kids do with their upper eyelids? It was a painful maneuver for her very swollen eyelid, which might explain it. Anyhow, there appeared to be what looked like a visible abscess inside the tissue with thick gooey material. I thought I'd give it a nudge and saw it move. This wasn't an abscess, it was something else. I managed to remove it quite easily in one whole piece. It was a fly larva. The patient told me that she had a bug hit her in the eye a few days before she got this infection. I removed the larva and within 2 days the wound closed and she was 100% recovered on basic antibiotic eye drops. Yes, I do have the photos from this case for those interested. TLDR, patient had a bug lay an egg in her eyelid and I removed the larva. This happened to me. This is from the days when I used to live back home. I used to live in Karachi, Pakistan but now moved to UK. We live very close to a SID, Police Investigation Department aka Pakistani FBI, building which we all were unaware of and always thought it was just an ordinary government building till on 11th, November 2010. On that day around evening time coming home from work I thought I better hit the gym, because they had a sauna and after being tired from all day work that sounded like a good idea, which was hardly 0.3 miles away so I decided to walk to the gym. I change quickly and leave for the gym and start walking towards the gym. This is I've hardly walked like 10 minutes and I'm 0.1 miles away roughly and all of a sudden for a nanosecond I feel that ground is shaking and then the next thing I hear is the loudest bang I've ever heard followed by a pressure kick into my chest. Now to let you guys know, both the ears started bleeding because the bang was so loud and for the reference the kick in the chest was as bad as Big Show wearing military boots and kicking you in the chest straight with full force. Next thing? I'm on the ground covering my ears because they are in agony and covered in dirt trying to figure out what's happening. As I am trying to figure out I can see all the car's alarms have gone off. Anything made up of glass has been shattered in roughly 1 to 2 miles area. I'm still trying to figure out what has happened and I start smelling gunpowder and as if someone is making a barbecue and is being burnt. I will always remember that smell which was something unsettling. Next things rock and dust particle starts landing on me and the surrounding areas which had 1 to 1.5 inches long of pieces of human skin and flesh. I am not believing that I have another human skin piece stuck to my arm. I brush up my clothes and arms getting up and covering my ear recovering from that pressure kick. As I move closer to a spot in a street where I am hearing loads of people screaming and crying I see a few 3 to 5 feet cracks between some walls of the building which have been destroyed by the shockwave of the bang. I see the gap between a wall and move into the area where I see these scenes straight from a Hollywood movie where people are crying, cars on fire and dead bodies on the ground. By this time I'm thinking it's a bomb blast and that's what has happened. As I move closer I see a 10 feet and 30 feet wide crater which has been filled with the water and the building which was a SID building is no longer there. There are hundreds of people lying on the ground crying for help as some of them don't even have legs or limbs or some don't have their complete bottom. I am still in a state of shock looking around and I see a woman crying and hitting herself because she had her husband dead whose legs and torso was missing. I seen that later. I see several people without legs, brains out and no limbs. One thing, which haunted me for sure was a 18 to 20 years old guy who was dead and lying on the floor towards his chest on the floor with his neck turned towards me. I can still remember him looking straight into my eyes. His feet were flipped the other way around. After the police arrived and media arrived I came back home after it got crowded. After I came home after the dusk every day, I would see that 18 to 20-year-old boy standing and staring into my eyes. I would wake up screaming throughout the night and see the guy standing at the doorway just staring at me. For 2 to 3 weeks I would see this guy regularly during midnight standing in my hallway staring through my soul. I still remember that guy's face and the shockwave and the sound of the blast. P.S. to this day even the slightest bang or even a loud music drops freaks me out sometimes reminding me of that shockwave. I'm married so sometimes I tell my wife that the bang just reminded me of the shockwave I witnessed in this accident. I don't tell her but inside my heart I pray secretly that God don't ever put anyone through that even in their wildest dreams. My HIV story. I was on a trip on my first commercial flight, from Sacramento to San Diego, to visit my girlfriend, and I didn't feel well. Once I got off the plane, I made it to the hotel and had bouts of nausea and diarrhea for a few days straight and finally decided to go to hospital. After waiting hours, I was led into a room and some time later an Asian woman wearing a mask and gloves entered. "Please leave the room," she told my girlfriend. "Let's call Beatrice." "No, she can stay, it's okay," I said. The doctor still hadn't looked at me, but looked back to Beatrice. "I think you should leave." I looked at Beatrice and said, "Can you please wait outside?" Right as the door closed, the doctor said, "You have HIV." My mind instantly started racing, trying to problem solve. "I can't have AIDS, I got tested before being with Beatrice and I was clean," I said. The doctor again, "You have HIV," while avoiding eye contact. I looked at my palms and for the first time in my life they were sweating, really sweating. I said again, "I can't, I've been tested." The doctor flipped a page and asked my name, which I responded, and finally the doctor's eyes made contact with my own. "I'm so sorry, I have the wrong chart. You have strep throat and laryngitis." I remember the world ending and then the feeling the most relief I've ever experienced in my life. When I told Beatrice the whole story, she awkwardly laughed and said, "But you don't have AIDS, right?" To this day when I tell people what happened, a good portion say, "But you don't have AIDS, right?" Holy fucking no. The story of John Edward Jones getting stuck in Nutty Putty Cave in Utah. He became wedged in the tight crawl when he took a wrong turn in the cave system. Rescuers could do nothing to get him out and he was stuck in there for 28 hours before he died from cardiac arrest because feet were above his head and his heart was pumping over time. One of the rescuers even gave him a phone to call his wife and talk to his young daughter before he died. This happened with my sister-in-law, when she was about 11 or 12. Her and her family lived in a trailer park, just down the street was her bus stop for school. Each morning, she would see a man in his trailer taking pictures of her and her friends. It creeped her out, so she went to tell her mom, my mother-in-law, of what this guy was doing and how he would just stand in the window staring at them and taking pictures. So, her mom calls the police and report him. The police didn't do anything. This went on for about another 2 weeks with no action from the police, to where now my sister-in-law is terrified to stand and wait for the school bus and her mom had to call the police again. This time, the police actually arrived at this pervert's house and lo and behold, the police find a wall covered in pictures of my sister-in-law, some of the other neighborhood little girls and some child porn. Her and the other families watched from afar with this guy cuffed up and being escorted to the police cruiser. I had brain surgery roughly 3 years ago. I lost my concept of time. What felt like 4 months was only 3 days. The amount of physical, mental, and emotional pain I went through was crazy. I had to find all of my memories and relearn how to walk, talk, everything. If you want to go through something terrifying, that is it. When I was much younger, we lived across the street from a big family. He had a wife and 5 sons, and one night he brought his whole family into the living room and lined them up and pulled a shotgun out from under the couch and shot himself in the head. The kids were messed up again for the rest of their lives. A kid from a couple towns away from me lived on a farm with his girlfriend. They were in the kitchen one night, she was cooking and him and his friend were cleaning their guns at the table. His went off and shot her, killing her immediately. He then loaded up, ran outside and shot himself in the head. One day as a kid I was exploring the forest near our house with my cousin. The forest was on a hill, but there were several craters there because of bombs that were dropped there during the World Wars, Germany. One day we saw a backpack at the bottom of one. We tried to climb down, but it was kinda steep and slippery, so we didn't want to risk falling. We planned on returning later with a rope, and went home. The next day news story was that there was a backpack found with the remains of a girl, in that forest. A guy walking his dog found it, after the dog wouldn't stop barking and going crazy at the edge of the crater, while staring at the backpack. We stopped exploring the forests after. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more real-life creepy encounters around the world. See you in the next video. Bye.